How are people controlled? Is it by brainwashing? Is it through lying? In order to get people to do what you want, you have to get them to want to do it. This is called manipulation, and it's not always a bad thing, believe it or not. When you are in a car with other people, in order to decide what everybody is going to eat, you all have to agree on one place, or there at least needs to be a majority in agreement. If you want to go eat burgers and another person wants to eat pizza, you both are going to engage in manipulation to campaign for what you want. You will say how good a juicy burger sounds right now with an order of warm salty fries and an ice cold glass of Coke. And the other person will start talking about the gooey cheese, savory pepperoni, and the crust that is a perfect combination of crispy on the outside and pillowy on the inside. All of this is manipulation and none of it is evil. It's just two people trying to bring the other to their side. There are subtle forms of manipulation as well, and television uses this a lot. News channels will report on a war and omit the offenses of the side they support and bring a magnifying glass over the offenses of the side they don't support. This style of manipulation is called deceptive framing. You exaggerate the good qualities and minimize the bad qualities of the thing you are trying to sell. This can work for selling narratives or actual objects. Getting people to reinforce their existing beliefs is always going to be easier than getting them to change what they already believe to be true. But you want to know the most effective form of manipulation? Scaring people. Fear is the most primal way we get people to go along with what we want. As a child, you become scared of getting in trouble because the first authority figures you learn to fear are your parents. When you get a little older, you become scared of concepts like death, the boogeyman, and potential things lurking in the dark. Authority figures in school use parental fear to get you to obey in class by threatening to call your mom or dad, which if you have parents who care about disciplining you can lead to you getting grounded or losing certain privileges. In high school, teachers begin using fear about your future. You need to get on the ball because they won't let you get away with this in college. Or, you need to work hard or you'll be flipping burgers at McDonald's. Fear based around having a negative future is the one that locks us into place because nobody wants to have a bad time. Nobody wants whatever's going on now to change. Pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to college or you're not going to have a good future. Save money for retirement or you're not going to have a good future. Don't spend any time having fun now or you're not going to have fun in the future. You scare people enough and they start scaring each other, and those people scare other people. Soon enough, this terrifying energy spreads like a disease, and the originators of these ideas no longer have to lift a finger to convince anybody. It solidified itself as a common belief. The culture of fear is where opportunists step in and take advantage. Insurance companies tell you, hey, if an accident happens, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. Just pay us money every month, and eventually if something happens, we'll fight tooth and nail to not pay out. But you can sue us if you can afford to. You should be saving that payment money for yourself to have an emergency fund, but the extreme price gouging by the medical industry discourages that. The medical industry also works in tandem with big business to discourage workers from getting fired because they'll lose all their medical benefits. It's all a big mess of people trying to take advantage of the common citizens' insecurities. The media contributes to this too. They do nothing but report on the worst things going on in the world, and it keeps everybody worried and stressed about the future. The left fearmongers about the right, and the right fearmongers about the left. Nobody ever points out that the politicians of both sides are working for the ruling class at the end of the day. The ruling class wants a surveillance state in America. Report on those crime statistics, CNN and Fox, so people buy more Ring cameras. That way, the government can use their army of Rainbolt clones to find any rule breakers. Hate immigrants because they're stealing your jobs. They work harder and are willing to get paid less. Do not hate the people that employ them though. Do not notice that the rules are set up so these big businesses don't have to pay them benefits and can basically use them as slaves since they can't go to the police. When you have a deal like that, why would you ever hire Americans? Big business loves immigrants. They love getting labor at a discount. So this weird thing happens where big business plays both sides of the issue. They tell Republicans to keep the border strong and the immigration law strict, but then have the Democrats encourage people to be here illegally and create some form of benefits for them so they can stay working for pennies. In a weird way, the message becomes, please come over, it's great, but don't get caught or you have to start over. It's not that they are stealing your jobs, it's that big business is stealing your opportunity so they can hand it over to the lowest bidder, who is subsidized by your tax dollars. Also, since robots are going to steal the jobs that were stolen from you pretty soon, we need to go up a step. A new kind of immigrant. Ones that can do office jobs like programming and IT. But don't worry, they'll get treated the same as field immigrants. This is just cheap labor for the digital age. It was never about being nice to immigrants who are looking for a better future for their families. It was only ever about creating a cheaper, more effective workforce. The immigrant workforce toils to produce the food that fuels the American working class, whose own labor is then exploited to enrich the ruling elite. All of the elite's power is focused on keeping the working class terrified. It's not just through political ideology, it's also through racial fear as well. Oh look, those people are being violent again. Oh look, those other people are being racist again. It really warps the view of the average person into thinking the people who are in the same working class as them are subhuman monsters. When in reality, 99.9% of people of any race are just spending their time lounging around on their phone or watching TV in their houses, eating junk food and not bothering anyone. But the ruling class cannot have us asking questions about who's really pulling the strings and making things hard for everyone. Because then you get a Luigi Mangione situation. The news won't even report on the copycats, because covering those stories involves discussions about the economic conditions that prompted the incidents to occur in the first place. If the elites become scared of something, you'll never know. It'll never be reported on by the mainstream media. There will probably be leaks about certain people feeling uneasy, and the independent news media will report on it, but the legacy media will never mention it. I could go on and on about the things that make people afraid, like the rising national debt, which doesn't work like personal debt, by the way. Or what about meteors? There always seems to be one headed right towards Earth, but it never gets reported on again. Instead of going through every single thing the common person is made to be afraid of, I'm just going to ask you to become aware of what kind of vibes the news is sending you. Take notice of what stories are being fed to everybody, and who would it benefit the most if you became afraid of what was being covered. Trump's most famous quote during the 2024 campaign, "They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs," was a scare tactic meant to cause Americans to panic about a violent immigration crisis that didn't actually exist. It was just a tool to get people to vote for him. In fact, I don't think he actually hates immigrants at all despite what he says. He's a very prominent employer of them in his business. You might say, well, how can you say he doesn't hate them? Well, that's because I'm speaking as a natural-born hater, and I would never employ the genocidal maniacs I despise. I can imagine him being somewhat fond of the immigrants that work in his house, and if they know him well, they probably know he loves flattery. Maybe fondness is too strong of a word. I should say he doesn't care about immigrants as much as he doesn't care about everybody else aside from his billionaire compatriots and his sycophants. At the end of the day, he's just telling everybody on his side what they want to hear. But that last part is my own speculation. Something concrete about his support for immigration is his stance on H-1B visas, that thing I was saying earlier about letting immigrants in for tech-related work. Not that it matters, because as we all know, pretty soon businesses won't even need human labor. But I'm getting off topic. Just remember, everybody above you wants you to be afraid. Your boss wants you to be afraid of not having healthcare. Your government wants you to be afraid of your fellow working class citizens. You might even be making yourself afraid as well. You could be afraid of your partner leaving. You could be afraid of your parents being disappointed in you, not doing enough for your kids, falling behind on bills. If you take one thing away from this video, is that the thing that ages a person the most, besides radiation from the sun and the forces of gravity, is stress. Stress is simply tension in your nervous system that comes from your mind being afraid about the future. So learn how to eliminate fear. Easier said than done, but here's a helpful heuristic. You may have heard this before, but basically, if you worry about something and it never happens, you've suffered once unnecessarily. If you worry about something and it happens, you've suffered twice. If you don't worry about something and it happens, you've only suffered once. If you don't worry about something and it never happens, then you didn't suffer at all. Some of you are going to twist my words and tell me I'm saying you should go through life recklessly without abandon, but I'm telling you right now that's just called being stupid. I do believe in taking precautions, but don't dwell on disaster more than necessary. I'm saying trust whatever you face in the future, you have the capacity to handle it. Trust yourself to make it through whatever trials and tribulations come your way. Do not cause yourself undue stress by formulating in your mind everything that can go wrong and stressing over it 24/7, because most of the time, things don't go wrong. And if they do, make sure you've only suffered one time. Oh, and when you've mastered that, do the country a favor and gain some class consciousness, because that's what our corporate overlords and their pet politicians are most afraid of.